Hi everyone, Shafiq here. Now that you know why it's important to validate your channel assumption, we're going to pivot to answering questions submitted by founders like yourself. But before we do, I want to remind you to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as click the notification bell right here somewhere so you can gain immediate access to our latest episodes. Okay, let me bring in Steven now. Hey Steven, are you ready with our first question?
Yes, I am, Shafiq. Thank you very much. Real quick, don't forget, everyone, that we have a special offer at the end of this episode. So we want to keep the suspense going for a little bit longer. But I want to jump right now to our first question. So this one comes from an entrepreneur who's been working on her startup part-time, and she's looking forward to committing to it full-time, which is awesome. Good strategy. But before she can do that, Shafiq, she does have a few things to overcome, including a challenge she's experiencing related to generating lead conversions through a social media campaign. So here's the question from our founder as she wrote it. I'm getting lots of visits to my landing page from my Facebook ad, but no one is signing up. How do I tell if these visitors are qualified prospects versus just curious visitors?
All right, so it's a great question. There's a lot to unpack here. I guess I'm going to assume that this person configured their campaign correctly to target the Facebook ad towards the target audience. So if you're not narrowing down the audience either through demographic selection, such as gender, age, income bracket, as well as interests, and of course geography, then you're just not getting you're just getting the wrong people clicking on your ad. So let's assume you were able to configure the ad correctly. And let's also assume you manually tested the ad with your target audience and you know that they respond to the problem mentioned in the ad as well as the hint of the solution. So assuming both the audience and the ad are correct, let's now focus on the landing page where you try to qualify the prospect. So this is where your landing page has to be very clear and ensure you're not distracting the prospect and providing a clear hint of the solution with the value conveyed very clearly. Steven, can we put up that slide that has an example of a landing page for a startup in the market validation phase? Great, thanks, Steven. So, okay, so you will notice that in this landing page, the founder has a value prop very clearly stated with a hint of a solution. And in the big bold letters, they're letting their early adopters know that the solution is coming soon. And they can sign up to be notified. The sign up process is simple, name, phone number, and email. And this allows the founder to know that the user is interested enough to surrender their information so they can find out when your solution becomes available. In the process, you can figure out how many people clicking on your ad are early adopters and want the solution now. Right? So Steven, do you have anything you want to add to that explanation?
I think you hit on the key points that founders mistakenly ignored, especially those related to confirming the quality of a click that generates a lead. I mean, if you think about it, is it a fat finger click that each of us have made several times, or is there a genuine interest that's reflected in by a qualified lead? And frankly, the only way to gain that evidence is by having the prospect take that one more simple action. So this should probably make sense to us as consumers, but sometimes as founders, we forget that lead generation is similar to a series of trust falls. And trust really comes from connecting with our customer and then enabling a prospect to move forward worry-free through the conversion process. Okay, Shafiq, here's our next question, which comes from a founder who launched her product while using a service that promised it would generate a whole bunch of new customers. I think you and I have seen services like this before, Shafiq. They're kind of costly as they do seem to promise to generate traffic for the founder so as to free them up to focus on their product, but they don't always deliver on that promise. So here's our second question from this founder. Let's see. It reads, I used a service to generate leads for my free offer that seemed to work since I got a bunch of signups, but now I can't get any of them to pay for an upgrade subscription after I released my latest software update and no one was responding to my messaging.
Wow, these are some great questions. So there's a lot to unpack in this one as well. All right. So let me kind of gather my thoughts here. So as far as software is concerned, freemium is a really nice way to get market validation for your product or service. But there are several pitfalls you have to avoid. The very first one is not how many users signed up for the free version, but how many actually used the software. Now you can track usage because it's software. So second, it's not just that they used it once, but do they use it over and over again? Assuming your software is solving a problem that occurs daily or sometimes hourly in the typical life of your target market segment, you should be able to see how many are regularly using the software. So I'm going to assume that our founder asking the question didn't really pay attention to usage. That is why they're not getting any conversions. They're asking people to pay when those people never experienced the value in the original product, nor the refined product. In other words, adoption never occurred. So the lesson here is not about freemium and getting people signed up for free products. That's not really a good indicator, but about usage. Usage is a form of payment that helps you understand how valuable your solution is in the life of your customer. Now, if I'm wrong and the founder does have full adoption of their software product and their free plan users regularly use their solution every day, but don't want to pay, well, then it's easy for them to figure out the price. Just take away the free option. And it's not like you take it away all or nothing. What you can figure out is how often do they use your service and put limits on often so that it becomes an inconvenience. So if they use it 3 times a day, make it free 1 time a day in the free plan. They can use it for 1 transaction a day. If they use it 5 times a month, make it free for 3 times a month. So they actually have to pay to be able to use it throughout the month, as often as they need it. In other words, you can figure out from the data of your customers where the free process can still provide the service to get some value, but take away the constant usage where the real value is. And that'll really quickly help you figure it out. So if the service is of value to your users, they'll pull out the credit card and they'll pay. If not, then you never really had adoption, or and there are other options that are better than yours for the amount you're asking. So in other words, if you kind of think about it, the other reason they may not be paying is because the asking price is way higher than the value it provides. And they can figure out other ways of accomplishing what you help them do as well. And they're just not willing to pay that price. Okay? So Steven, is there anything you want to add to this one here?
Yes, I'd like to add that founders should really be careful about outsourcing their key business processes when getting started. For example, you and I run across this quite a bit. We run across founders who aren't really comfortable with selling, and then they end up hiring a sales organization, especially during market validation. And what turns out to be the case is it's both expensive, and the founder misses out on the opportunity, that learning opportunity. So everyone, y'all have to remember that part of being a founder is working to put together the pieces of the startup puzzle. It doesn't mean that you have to always be active in all parts of the business or that you'll never outsource anything. It's just that you need to be careful not to inhibit your potential by relying on someone else prematurely. All right, Shafiq, we have one more question right here. This comes from someone who has an idea and they want to see if there's demand for it. And his question is, I have what I think is a great idea. From all my research, I believe that I should be using Kickstarter to get market validation. Actually, the person writes, I didn't know what market validation was before stumbling on our series. That's pretty awesome. So the person's asking us, can you tell me whether this is a bad idea to use Kickstarter to get market validation? And if so, why is that?
I love Kickstarter questions, and I love Kickstarter. Steven, I think you might have bought like 50 items from Kickstarter by now. Is that since they launched? So you're like a pro Kickstarter user, right? Okay, so again, there's a lot to unpack here. So in general, if you've ever tried to use Kickstarter, then you already know the benefits Kickstarter provides you. So again, but there's a whole lot of pitfalls along the way of using Kickstarter campaigns. And if you're trying to use it for market validation, well, that's just a bad idea. We don't believe Kickstarter is a good solution to get market validation. We do believe Kickstarter is a great solution after you've had market validation and you're trying to get and figure out how to satisfy the first 100 customers and work out the repeatable sales and delivery of your product. The nice thing about Kickstarter is it allows you to sell to a lot of people because you can establish that goal, as many as you need when you run the campaign. And then it allows you to fulfill those orders in chunks. And as you fulfill the early orders, you can do them in tranches. You can get feedback, fix the product for the next tranche, and quickly iterate. So it's a great way to get a whole bunch of sales, like 100 units or 200 units you need, whatever that number limit that you want to put on a successful campaign, and then quickly iterate to figure out, deliver them in small chunks, 5-10 users at a time, and keep working iteratively to fix the adoption issues. So you know that the product is getting good ratings and you can get good feedback. And the other nice thing is with Kickstarter, you also know exactly who you sold the stuff to, so you can reach out to them and get feedback from those people. If you are participating in Kickstarter campaigns, successful ones, you know that the smart guys are doing just that. They're trying to figure out who the early people who signed up were. They consider them early adopters, and they ask them to participate to provide early feedback and early version of the product. They tell them up front, and they say that if the product needs replacing, they'll replace it for free. So it's a great way for them to then iteratively deliver the solution and get that repeated sales and delivery going. So post the Kickstarter campaign, they're ready to scale and they're ready to launch and continue selling their product. The other thing that we've seen in Kickstarter is that way too many people never get past a campaign. Like they may be successful meeting their financial goals in the Kickstarter to make it what's the term, Stephen, that they have in Kickstarter when a campaign is funded? Yeah, they meet their funding goals. But the challenge is that after delivering the initial set of products, they never figured out how to repeatedly satisfy customers or get adoption going. And that's what the purpose of the Kickstarter campaign was. But they blow the wad in shipping one version of the product to, all 700 units they sold, or 1,000 units, or even 10,000 units, without ever going through a iteration cycle that got the adoption going. So if you want to do Kickstarter the right way, use Kickstarter to get a bunch of sales that help you quickly improve the product for the mainstream market. And then you also have a plan to scale and continue selling that product for the mainstream market. And which means trying to use for market validation is just a waste of time. You need to know that the 5 assumptions test out before you launch the campaign, which means you're guaranteed pretty much to get the 100 or so customers, because Kickstarter generally has a lot more concentration of early adopters. And then it also prepares you post a funded campaign to be successful in continue selling the product to the mainstream market. So does that answer the question, Stephen?
Yeah, that's great, Shafiq. Yes, I am a big fan of Kickstarter and back several projects there. You do cover a lot of the risks, and since it seems like you and I have had a lot of learning as crowdfunding backers, you and I are looking forward to receiving a lot of additional questions related to Kickstarter. Kickstarter has really evolved over the years, so how people use it today is a little different than I think what people perceive it as from even just a handful of years ago. It's a lot more mature as far as how startups use it as a platform. So, okay, y'all, before we let you go, we do really have an exciting offer for just this coming week. If you apply to LeanMastery Incubator within the next 7 days, you're guaranteed to either get myself or Shafiq as your dedicated coach. One of the questions that we often get from our applicants is, who is going to be my coach? Well, Shafiq and I have decided to clear out our calendars and help the next 50 applicants accepted into our incubator directly. So apply now and be sure to complete all 3 steps of the application process. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Do this before the deadline of July 15th. That's Wednesday, July 15th. If we accept you, you can either choose between, once again, myself or Shafiq as a coach with this next 50 applicants we're going to take through. That's pretty exciting. We're excited because we're looking forward to working directly with you and seeing where your ideas are at and how we can help you progress along. So to learn more about the LeanMastery Incubator and to apply, visit leanmastery.co today. Thank you all for watching, and we look forward to helping you be successful in pursuing your startup dreams by building lean.